What's up, Tennessee Titans fans? This is Two Tone Uncensored, and I'm your host, Ryan Moreland. We have a lot to talk about, so let's jump right into it. Obviously, the big news coming this week, we do have a new head coach in Nashville. Mike Vrabel announced as the new head coach. Most of us familiar with Vrabel from his playing days, obviously a three-time Super Bowl champion with his time with the Patriots. Also was, on the 2007 All-Pro team, a very good linebacker throughout his career. Vrabel comes in now after serving 1 year as a defensive coordinator for the Houston Texans and a few years before that as their linebackers coach. He's a defensive-minded coach, which worries a lot of people. That, everybody was thinking we'd go for an offensive-minded coach, obviously, because the big thing that everybody's been talking about, not just John Robinson and the ownership, but fans all over the place, analysts, figureheads and sports media have been talking about is the Tennessee Titans need to get a coach that can build around Marcus Mariota. Now, obviously, that's the truth, but the Titans never limited themselves to an offensive-minded coach. I talked about it last week how, guys like Vrabel, guys like Scott Wilkes, guys like Jim Schwartz, who are all defensive-minded guys, there's still possibilities if they can get themselves a good offensive coordinator. That's obviously going to be what we're looking for here. So he still needs to get a solid offensive coordinator, but we get in a defensive-minded coach who truly is, Vrabel, a leader of men, which is the soundbite I think we've all heard a million times now from John Robinson saying we need a leader of men first and foremost. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for a coach that can do this or that. We're looking for a coach specifically that can come in and be a leader. That is mostly in today's day and age what the head coach is for an NFL organization. It's changed from this, they kind of control everything, to more kind of this CEO type figurehead who, motivates, keeps the team on, on the path that they want to take, but lets most of the coaching fall to quarterback coaches, linebacker coaches, positional coaches, and offensive coordinators and defensive coordinators. Also, you can throw in special teams coordinators in there as well. So, it's okay to get a guy that's just going to be mostly a leader. However, you need a guy also that's going to help in the schematical parts of things. Will Vrabel call the plays for defense? That's something that we, don't know yet. I would hazard guess and say no, based off of his inexperience. I know the guy has tons of playing experience, but as a coach, very new to coaching in the grand scheme of things. So we'll have to see how that plays out. Inexperience, obviously, going to be the one big question mark for Vrabel starting out, because he's only spent 1 year as a defensive coordinator, only a few years before that as a linebackers coach at the NFL level, spent some time at Ohio State before that, but at the NFL level, it's been a very short time. And he needs an offensive coordinator, obviously. That's going to be a big thing. But before we get into offensive coordinator, let's talk about what he has done so far. Vrabel came out, said that he's going to pull from college schemes to help out Marcus Mariota, which is obviously what a lot of us want to see. Get some spread looks in there. Get some stuff that Marcus is going to be successful in. Obviously that was a large part of why Mike Mularkey did not retain his job, as Mike Mularkey wanted to play his offense and not an offense that was tailored to Marcus Mariota. That ended up costing him his job. One thing Vrabel also has done is cleaned house. Everybody's gone. Everybody knew that Terry Robisky was not going to be here, whether Mike Mularkey was here or not. No matter what was going to happen, Terry Robisky was out. But Dick LeBeau also getting the axe. He will not be coming back, which I know a lot of us are sad to see. Everybody is gone. The only possible retainee, the only possible coach that might return is our defensive back coach, Deshae Townsend, who actually played with Vrabel in his time in Pittsburgh. I don't know if all of you are familiar with this or not, but Vrabel started his career with Pittsburgh, spent a couple years there before heading to the Patriots, where he spent the lion's share of his career. So in that time, he'd spent time with Townsend. Townsend's going to get an interview, they said, at the Senior Bowl. He'll get his chance to interview for the defensive backs job. I like this. It sucks getting rid of Dick LeBeau, and I'll talk more on that later. But we saw when Mike Mularkey was hired, we retained a lot of Ken Whisenhunt's staff. a lot of Ken Whisenhunt's staff. This time we're getting a clean break, starting fresh, getting in new faces, getting in guys that we think can do the job better, guys that are going to run the new schemes. It's last time it felt almost like it was the Malarkey / Whisenhunt era. Like the Whisenhunt era, like truly ended with the hiring of Mike Vrabel. It always felt like that to me because we retained so many people. I believe it was like more than half of the staff, if I'm not mistaken, were Whisenhunt's guys that were retained and stayed in Tennessee. You can't start off as a new head coach in a position and a place and expect to have a lot of success if you keep everybody. You need to be able to shuffle some people around, get new faces, get in some guys that can really help your system. Jason Michaels was a guy that came from Whisenhunt's, very fast-paced West Coast offense, let's throw the ball, and he stayed as the quarterback coach in Mike Mularkey's let's run the ball down the hill, smash mouth football. How does that make sense? I know schematically the quarterback coach isn't changing things in the schemes a lot of the times, but he is coaching a guy for this system. Why would you keep a guy that is very unfamiliar with the smash mouth system? And that's just one example. You can pull from offense, defense, from everywhere across this team, guys that were there that were helping these players work towards a system that they have never played in or they were very unfamiliar with. Especially on offense, but there are some instances on defense where this happened as well. So I like this. I like that we're, getting rid of everybody, getting new faces in, with only one possible retainee. And I like Townsend. I think that he's done a decent job in the time that he's been here. I do think there might be some possibilities for improvement. And if they feel like that's a realistic possibility, then obviously that's the direction they're going to go. But, still really preliminary. We haven't even hired an offense or defensive coordinator yet. So we're not getting to the point where we're going to, hire defensive backs coaches. So let's move on to this offensive coordinator and defensive coordinator talk. Let's start with, the rumored Ryan Day hiring. Everybody was talking about how it was in the bag. It's not happening, folks. I don't know if you've heard or not, but he is reportedly plans to stay at Ohio State. A lot of people like this because he came from the Chip Kelly coaching tree. Day played quarterback at New Hampshire under Chip Kelly, who was the offensive coordinator there at the time, then became his tight ends coach, which was Day's first job in coaching. A lot of people thought it'd be a good fit for Marcus. He likes bootleg, spread style offense. Got tongue twisted there. Extending plays, that kind of stuff. A lot of what you saw Marcus do at Oregon that made him such a success there. So a lot of people like that fit. It's not going to happen, though. Ryan Day plans to stay at Ohio State. So we're looking at other guys here. A lot of people keep bringing up Matt LaFleur, who also interviewed for the head coaching spot. I don't see this as a possibility or very likely at all. He's already an offensive coordinator in LA. LA had a very successful season last year. The only reason for him to change then would be a promotion or a big payday, like a big pay increase. Tennessee's not going to shell out a ton of money to get Matt LaFleur when there's other guys out there that they can get for a lot cheaper that you can have almost or just as much faith in. So I don't see this as likely. I think this ship has sailed. The Rams Wire, as part of USA Today, has already reported that it looks likely that he'll stay with the LA Rams. So let's write that one off. Take him off your board. It doesn't look like that's a true possibility. Now, John DeFilippo is a guy that I've talked about for the last couple of weeks as a guy that I really like. He right now is the quarterback coach at Philadelphia. Previously, before that, was a one-year stint as the offensive coordinator for the Browns. In that time, Cody Kessler it was the 5th rated, and I mentioned this last week, but the 5th rated QBR of all time in Browns history with Cody Kessler, who's not that good of a quarterback. Obviously, this year, Carson Wentz had a fantastic year, and now with Wentz out, Foles played amazing in that last game, is taking his team to the Super Bowl now. He's had his ups and downs for sure, but Nick Foles has been a journeyman kind of guy. He's the guy that you get until you draft your franchise quarterback. He's the Band-Aid, if you will. So he's making that guy. That guy's going to be playing in the Super Bowl. DeFilippo's work is very apparent when you look at those. Now, the inexperience also going to be a question mark with him, as it is with Vrabel. Hasn't spent a lot of time coaching. But this is a guy I really like. I think that his, experience, the little experience that he does have, his success speaks for itself. He's been very successful with young quarterbacks, which is, a key plus. Very successful with quarterbacks getting into new systems with Kessler and with Wentz. He's a guy that I think really fits what we're trying to do here. I think he can do a lot with Marcus. He doesn't have that spread style as much, but they do run spread style stuff within Philadelphia. They do move the ball around. They get out in 5 wide receiver sets every now and again and 4 wide receiver sets. They do interesting things to get the ball out. They use the JA a lot in the passing game. They do things like that I think will help Marcus be successful. He's definitely a guy that I'm looking at. There's a couple other names being floated around, but right now, John DiFilippio is the guy that I'm looking at. He's the guy that I want. Now, we can interview him next week. In the week between the Pro Bowl and the Super Bowl, you're allowed to interview coaches that are heading to the Super Bowl. However, we cannot hire him until after the Super Bowl. Again, like I said last week when talking about, these guys that are headed to the Super Bowl and, or possibly now for sure heading to the Super Bowl with the Eagles, it could be a problem because you're trying to get your hire in. Right now, the Giants are looking for coordinators. Right now, the Cardinals are looking for coordinators. Every team, I think all 5 teams right now, I believe it's 5 teams, they're all looking for coordinators. They're all looking for that guy out there. So we can't, if we all go after DiFilippio, there's a 1 in 5 chance we get him. So that's an issue. Also, you want to start hiring your quarterback coach, your running backs coach, your wide receivers coach, your tight ends coach, etc. You want to start making those hires. Before you do that, you need to hire an offensive coordinator. So that also becomes an issue. So we'll see what happens with these other jobs. If they start filling up, we might wait. It depends on what they see. And obviously I'm not Vrabel, and Vrabel's not picking, he's not going to pick the guy that's just, because Adam Schefter said it's a good fit or, Ian Rappaport said it was a good fit. He's going to do his homework, and him and John Robinson are going to come together and pick guys that they think are right for the scheme. So we don't know anything really yet. And that's going to be the theme of the show this week is we don't know jack shit. I don't know jack shit. You don't know jack shit. We barely know anything. I'm going to tell you what I barely know and throw in my speculation as we go. But we'll see what happens in that regard. Now, on to the defensive side of the ball. Dick LeBeau not coming back, and it comes with a heavy heart. I think we will, move on. We can make a good defense out of this team. We have a lot of key parts along the defense that are young and talented, so I'm not that worried about that. It's sad to see a legend like this leave. And, there's also been talk that if he does not come back to Nashville, his career could be over. He could go into retirement. Now, we'll see if that happens or not, because, I don't know. I just can't see Dick LeBeau doing retirement. I firmly still believe Dick LeBeau will die with a whistle around his neck and the play chart in his hands on the sideline. But we'll see what happens there. But, hats off to Dick LeBeau. Not going to be coming back. It's not really surprising. Vrabel wants to install his defense, wants his coaches. But LeBeau will definitely be missed in Nashville. That is for sure. He definitely upgraded this defense a lot. We went from very, very bad to pretty damn solid in, the short time that he was here. So hats off to Dick LeBeau. Definitely will be missed in Nashville and was one hell of a coach. And there's not a lot of guys that unanimously Titans fans are going to miss from the coaching staff that has just left. But Dick LeBeau is the one guy I think we will all miss a lot. Now on to who's going to be our next Dick LeBeau. Who's going to fill those clown-sized shoes as our defensive coordinator. A couple names have been popping up. First, James Bettcher, who will be interviewing with the Titans for the position. He is the former Cardinals defensive coordinator, obviously, after they cleaned house. He will not be there any longer. Betcher's another guy with not a lot of experience, but in the time that he has had, he's been very successful. 3 years as a defensive coordinator, his defenses have ranked 6th in the league, 2nd in the league, and 5th in the league. So all 3 years, top 6 defenses. Now, you do have to add into that he did come into a job where he already had a lot of really good talent. They already had guys like Patrick Peterson. They already had guys until this year like Calais Campbell. They already had guys like Tyrann Mathieu, who are, some of the best at their position in the entire league. So he had a lot of talent to work with. However, a point to be made is that offense has sucked ass. That offense has been terrible while he's been there. So he hasn't gotten a lot of help from the other side of the ball, like ever, in his time there. Especially this season, without no David Johnson, that really hurt them. And, they were just terrible in offense all year long. But they've had really good defenses while Betcher's been in charge. I mean, certainly Titans fans are not going to forget only putting up 7 points against the Arizona Cardinals late in the season. They definitely handled us in that game. Obviously a game we really, really wanted to win. It was an important game for us in Week 14, and we blew it, and a large part to Betcher's defense really showing up and flat out dominating us. So that's a guy that we're going to be looking at. He'll also be interviewing for the Giants defensive coordinator position. So there is, some competition for this guy. He's a guy that a lot of people are going to be looking at, obviously. The guy that I like, in my opinion, if you're looking for my opinion, I think this would be a good hire for us. I think him and Vrabel will install a similar style defense. Now, this will beg the question, are we going to make the move to 4-3? Is that what's going to happen? I don't know right now. We'd have to add a lot of different packages. Right now we have the 3-4 where we barely rotate defensive linemen at all, especially with Daquan Jones missing the entire season. We don't mix people in. We don't rotate very often. We don't substitute. So you're gonna now switch to a 4-3 system when we barely have 4 defensive linemen to speak of. You're going to have to go out there and draft and pick up guys in free agency. If we're going to make this move, we're going to have to do it fast, and we're going to have to throw money at this situation so that we're not a terrible defense coming up. I don't know. I know a lot of you are big fans of the 3-4. I know probably some of you are fans of the 4-3. To me, every defense in the NFL runs sets where they have 4 down linemen and 3 down linemen. You run both. Your base doesn't matter as much as people lead you to believe it does. What base you come out of, if you run a 3-4, say, but you have a guy like a Bruce Irvin who's technically your 4th linebacker, but he blitzes on every single play. Are you really running a 3-4? So your base scheme doesn't matter as much as what you're doing with it, how you're moving around, what people do you have on the field, where are you pass rushing from. Those things are what truly matter. So I'm not worried about a move. The one problem is if we do move to 4-3, we already need to add depth and talent on our defensive line. You're going to have to add more. You're going to have to add more depth, certainly, than we have right now if you want to run 4 down linemen. That's something that, we're definitely going to be looking out for. I think everybody has in the back of their mind, are we going to make the switch on defense? And it's something that we'll see. But Betcher, I think he's a great hire. I think he'd be an absolutely, fantastic pickup for us. And I think he would keep doing what Dick LeBeau was doing, which is improving this defense. It's been a slow process, admittedly, but, defenses normally don't go from bad to good overnight. Offenses, it seems a little bit easier to make that jump than it is to make a great defense. You don't do it overnight. Another guy that his name has been thrown around, and I don't know how serious this has been, and I don't know where exactly this comes from. And, it's always from sources. Being a journalist myself, I understand that you don't give up your sources, but this one it seems fake to me. But we'll see. I'll let you make up your own opinion here. Darren Perry is the current defensive backs coach for the Green Bay Packers, interviewed for the defensive coordinator spot with the Packers, did not get it. His name's been thrown around as possibly coming over. He's actually not the defensive back coach. He's the safeties coach, more specifically, in Green Bay. Those secondaries have been shaky. He has talent there. It's not top tier talent by no stretch of the imagination, but guys like Clinton Dix, who is a young and pretty solid safety. Pretty decent safety, definitely above average. Also a guy, Darren Perry, who played for Dick LeBeau when he played in Pittsburgh. So, familiar with that defense. A lot of people, I think that is where the connection starts, is it wouldn't be a huge change in some people's mind. But Perry's system's doesn't have a lot in common. They do run a similar style zone blitz, but Dick LeBeau, one of the great things about him as a coach is his adaptability. That defense is a zone blitz defense. That's what he runs. But you can watch week 2. Go back and watch week 2 of this season and watch where we blitz from. Where is it coming from? Where do we shift? How often are we run zone underneath? How often do we run zone over top? Watch that. Then watch week 10 and see where all of those things are. It's never the same. That's what makes Dick LeBeau great, is his adaptability. That scheme changes so often. Now we haven't really gotten to see Darren Perry's defense yet, but from what we've seen from where he's at in Green Bay, his coaching tree outside of Dick LeBeau, I don't think it'd be the same. And plus, every NFL team at this point runs zone blitzes. It's not anything new. So, I just don't think there's a lot of credence to this rumor that's been going around about Darren Perry. Titans have not, said anything about having any interest in him whatsoever. It's come from, sources, and it's really, I think, speculation. I think they found a link with Dick LeBeau, and he was our defensive coordinator here, so why not bring this guy in? I don't give this a lot of credence, and if they are thinking about it, I don't like the hire. I think there's plenty of guys out there that have more experience, have had more success in the same amount of time frame that Darren Perry has. If you're looking for a guy that doesn't have as much experience, you would look for a guy that's had a lot of success. Guys like Betcher, guys we've been talking about like John DeFilippo on offense, guys like Mike Vrabel. Our offensive coordinator. So I don't like this, at all for a defensive coordinator spot. I don't think this guy's ready to make that move. One more guy that's been thrown around a little bit, but there's no link to the Titans yet, and I'm not saying there will be. But as of right now, there's none, and that's Jack Del Rio. He will be interviewing for the Giants position. So a lot of people have been speculating maybe he'll interview as well for the Titans spot. What I'm hoping is the Giants, like Jack Del Rio, hire him, and then Betcher is 100% ours. That's what I'm hoping. Nothing against Jack Del Rio, but his defenses have been, 2-3 player defense? I mean, there's like 2 or 3 guys that are really good at what they do on that team. And you can argue 2 guys that are great, and 1 guy who's fantastic, and a bunch of guys that are average or worse. On the Raiders' defense has been one of the worst defenses. It's really held their offense back, and this year when we saw their offense kind of sputter, there was no way that they were going to be a successful football team because that defense is not built to win games by itself. It's that Raiders team the year before was winning in spite of their defense. When their offense fluttered, the defense wasn't enough to hold up. So I'm not really looking at Jack Del Rio as a guy that I really want. Now, I wouldn't be deflated. I wouldn't be hurt if we end up giving him an interview. If he ends up coming to Nashville, which is again complete speculation, but it wouldn't hurt. I think that he could install a good defense. I think we have more talent on defense than they do. But I want a guy that's had a little bit more success. I want a guy that I think is going to fit with Vrabel better than I think Jack Del Rio will. And, kind of a guy that doesn't have the personality. Jack Del Rio kind of known for his personality. I want a guy that's not going to try to steal the spotlight. I want a guy that's going to come in and do his job and not worry about talking to the press and stuff like that. So that's why I like Betcher. If you're not an avid football fan, you probably never even heard his name before. He's a guy that comes in, does his work, and does it well, and that's it. There's a ton of more guys I haven't named on here. These are like big names I've been circulating a lot, and I've seen you guys out there as Titans fans and Two-Tone Uncensored fans circulating a lot. So those are the names I really wanted to bring up this week. Hopefully we find our guy on offense. It's still up in the air. There's a lot of guys out there. We really don't have a guy, I think, in mind quite yet. I like John DeFilippio, but that's my opinion. I'm not sure how Vrabel or John Robinson feels about that hire. I like Betcher. We're going to interview him, so obviously they like him enough to give him an interview. That's obviously, direction we might go. But anyways, enough coach talk. We've done it now. That's what we're looking at right now. I'm sure by this time next week, when the next podcast comes out, it'll be completely different. We might even have an offense and defensive coordinator by then. Who knows? So let's move on here to some good news. I guess quasi-good news. Kevin Byard and Brandon Trawick have been added to the Pro Bowl roster. This is because they're going to be replacing Micah Hyde and Patriots special teamer Matt Slaughter, respectively. This is, the Pro Bowl means nothing. I've talked about this now for a couple years. The Pro Bowl means nothing anymore. It doesn't mean anything. You're getting, instead of it being like 53-man rosters, so many people say no to going because of injury or fear of injury, or they're playing in the Super Bowl or this, that, and the other thing, that it's meaningless. It's a completely meaningless game when you get, instead of being like, what would it be, 106 invitees, by the time that guys back out and you get the replacements and then the replacement and so on and so forth, you're inviting like 250 guys. It doesn't mean anything anymore. Being all pro, being all conference, like that stuff matters. That still means a lot, but the Pro Bowl means nothing at this point. But I won't lie, and I know you probably feel the same way, seeing 6 Titans in the Pro Bowl feels good. It still does feel good. Even though we know it's meaningless, even though we know the Pro Bowl has lost all meaning truly, it still feels good to see that many Titans in there. We've been through so many years of, Walker getting snubbed repetitively, Jarrell Casey getting snubbed repetitively. So finally, we're getting guys that are getting recognition outside of Kevin Byard, who not being first team was criminal, by the way. I mean, just an unbelievably big snub, which adds to the fact, as I was saying earlier, that it means nothing. When you're not even getting the right names in there, obviously, it's losing meaning. A guy that's going to be, all pro, but he's not in the Pro Bowl. Go figure. But anyway, enough of me bitching about the Pro Bowl. Byard and Trawick will be joining Taylor Lewan, Delaney Walker, Jarrell Casey, Brett Kern, and that'll make up the 6 Titans that are in the Pro Bowl. Awesome. It's great for those guys to get recognition. I hope they have a lot of fun. I hope they have a good time. Really enjoy their time down there. Stay healthy, of course, obviously, being a key factor. But, it's a meaningless game, but it is nice to see that many Titans in the Pro Bowl after years and years and years of getting snubbed. So, moving forward, obviously moving into the offseason, we're going to begin the talks of, who we're going to be drafting, what we're looking like in free agency, who we're going to be letting go, what's going to happen with the guys on our team that are coming up on free agency. Normally I would start talking about it at this point. However, I'm not going to yet. I'm not going to bring it up on this show. I'm not going to start talking about this. And it's coming soon. I've been watching a lot of tape. I've been gathering my thoughts. I've been looking at how expensive certain guys are, who else out there is going to be in free agency. All of that research has started. Right here beside me as I do this show is a stack probably of about 19 maybe pages of notes that I have taken on different things, guys coming out of the draft and the like. And we're going to get into that very in-depth like we do every year on this show. But I just didn't want to start yet because there's too much in the air right now. who is our offensive coordinator, our defensive coordinator? That's going to impact a lot of those decisions hugely. Are we switching to a 4-3? Obviously going to affect it hugely. What changes will be made? I think we need to wait a week or two before we see, what's going to happen before we start talking, all right, who we're going to retain, who we're not going to retain. And I know that a lot of you are looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to talking about it. However, it's just a little too soon. We don't know. There's too much up in the air. So I promise you it's coming. I promise you it's going to be very in-depth. It's going to be a lot of stuff. And feel free. We don't do the mailbag anymore, but feel free. If you have questions, send them to me. Send them to me on Twitter. Send them to me on Facebook. Send them to our email at twotoneuncensored@gmail.com. If you have questions, send them to me. I'll definitely make sure that I bring them up. If you have guys that you're looking at, I'm definitely going to look into them then. If there's a guy that you think I should look at, let me know. Everybody in the first 3 rounds or, projected first 3 rounds, I'm going to have an in-depth analysis. I'm going to watch tape on. But anybody outside of that or any free agents you're really interested in, especially if they're not as big names, definitely send them my way. I'd be interested in looking into them and giving you my opinion on it. I would absolutely enjoy that. So feel free. Sorry about that. I had to take a little beer break right there. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into it yet, but feel free to send me what you are thinking, guys, that you're looking at, or, you want another opinion on something. You want to hear my thoughts on a certain guy or what we should do with a certain player. Feel free to send them my way. But now, the Super Bowl is set. February 4th, we will be seeing the Eagles play the Patriots. We don't have a dog in this hunt. I think most of us want to see the Eagles win just because we don't want to see the Patriots win another Super Bowl. That's the kind of boat that I'm in. But, I don't really care either way. Obviously, I'm going to watch it. It's going to be, like you do every year. You watch it no matter who's playing. But we don't really have a dog in it. And at this point, it doesn't matter if they win or lose for starting to interview head coaches, offensive coordinators, or possible defensive coordinators. Jim Schwartz is another name. He really wants to come back to Nashville, and is that want enough to stay at the same position? Who knows? But we do know it's going to be the Eagles and the Patriots, and, it doesn't matter for us who wins or who loses. As far as the Titans go, so, I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles just because I want to see Tom Brady not win another goddamn Super Bowl. I don't want to see Belichick win another goddamn Super Bowl. So, I'm going to be rooting for the Eagles, but it doesn't really matter either way for us. The Pro Bowl, obviously coming up even sooner than that. Going to watch my guys. Hopefully, get some Titans involved in these competitions. That's the best part of the Pro Bowl anyway. The game's usually terrible. So, watching these, they do the dodgeball and the hands competition and all of that stuff is more fun than the Pro Bowl anyway. And, they've been adding stuff. So hopefully we get to see some of our guys out there doing that kind of stuff, having fun, enjoying an off season in which they had a good season. The Titans should be proud of what they did. As I said, last week on the show, they should be proud of what they accomplished this season. The first playoff win since most of the guys on our team were in, maybe even Pee-wee football, middle school football. It's been a long time since the Titans have gotten that, so they should be proud of themselves for getting us that far. Next week, what you can be looking forward to is, I think, as long as we start getting some hirings and getting some questions answered, I'm going to be looking at the free agents on our team. Are they likely to go? Are they likely to stay? We're going to start having those conversations. Also, some preliminary conversations about free agency will start to come up. I'm going to put a poll out there, though, and see, because I'm interested now to see who wants the Eagles, who wants the Patriots to win. So I'm going to put a poll out there on Twitter, on my Twitter at the Ryan Moreland, and on the show's Twitter at TTU Podcast. To see what you guys think, who you guys want to win. I'm sure that it's not going to be surprising, but, we'll see what you guys think. But that's about all we're going to have on this show. I promise you a lot more in-depth stuff coming, a lot of draft talk, a lot of of stuff like that, a lot of free agency and the like coming up. But right now, we just have too many question marks to really jump into that. But as for the hiring, I think Vrabel was a solid hire. I think that he's going to make a good coach. The inexperience worries me a little bit, but I'm excited to see where he takes this team. I think he is a truly good leader. Obviously, he was a leader on the field. He's been a leader in the coaching roles that he has had. I'm excited to see where Vrabel takes us. I'm excited to see what we do in offense and defensive coordinator. I think John Robinson has been making the right move since he stepped into this building. I don't expect that to be changing anytime soon. So, everybody have fun this week. Enjoy watching our Tennessee Titans participate in the Pro Bowl. And as always, tighten up.